Hello, everyone. I hope all of you are doing great today, and very warm welcome to all of you on the ACCA's Practice to Pass platform. And this is the day 2 of our webinar. And yesterday was a very exciting day because we covered the most important, the most core part of the syllabus, that is the planning and the risk assessment. And we discussed what's the audit risk, what are the different components of audit risk, and we even explored a very important area for the upcoming attempt, and that is business risk. So yesterday's class was a very exciting one and a very challenging one, and I tried to ensure that we come up with a plan, we come up with a strategy which is a lot more simple as compared to the past papers. Yes, those past papers are ideal answers. Never ever the examiner has expressed in any of his or her document that you need to replicate those past papers as it is. No, no, that's not the case. Those are ideal answers. They cover pretty much everything. For example, if you are required to attempt a particular question for 10 marks, in the past paper answer, there are almost 17 or 18 marks available, but you're only going to get 10 out of it. So those are for reference, those are for a guideline, those are for the knowledge, those are not meant to be replicated as it is. Nobody can, and you should not try it, neither at home nor at college. Anyways, so as you all know, my name is Ahmed, and right now on your screen you have got my WhatsApp number, and you can contact me for whatever, if you've got any kind of confusion, whether it is relevant to ACCA, whether it is relevant to AAA or anything beyond it, you are more than welcome to contact me. Okay. uh, well, let's quickly skip all that stuff which I covered yesterday. I introduced myself yesterday, but I think the more important part which we need to cover today is, we all know we have got two sections in the exam format. In the section number 1, we have got only one question for 50 marks, and within those 50 marks there will be 4 professional marks, and yesterday we covered those 4 professional marks as well. So if anyone out there has missed out the day 1 of the webinar, no problem, I will share the link of the day 1 within your WhatsApp group after an hour or so, or maybe at the end of this today's session. Don't worry. What about section B? In the section B, we have got 2 questions, 25 marks each. And uh, what about the course content? This is very much challenging. I told you that the section A, regulatory environment, out of this you need to prepare a topic called money laundering. The current issues and developments, you have to keep an eye on the ACCA website, you have to keep an eye on the technical articles. If there is an if a particular technical article comes up within no time, around the exam, you need to prepare that, because that is going to be relevant to current issues and developments. So now we are left with B, C, D, E, and F. Yesterday we cover D, which is planning and conducting an audit of historical financial information. We discovered what's risk of material misstatement is, what is business risk. So we covered all that. Okay, what about today? We will be covering B and C today: professional and ethical considerations and quality control. What about tomorrow, day 3? We'll be covering completion, review, and reporting tomorrow. Why we are having completion, review, and reporting on one day, a complete day to completion, review, and reporting? Because completion, review, and reporting will be part of the section B. One of the question out of the 2 questions will be from completion, review, and reporting. So if I am a student, and if I need to attempt the paper on Monday, 6 June 2022, I will make sure that 2 particular course content, 2 particular sections would be my rock solid. Number 1, planning and conducting an audit of historical financial information, because we all know that we'll have question number 1 on that. And out of the 2 questions in section B, one of the question will be completely focused on completion, review, and reporting. Now the tricky part is, what about the third question? The third question could be from any area of the syllabus, and when I say any area of the syllabus, I think we need to eliminate planning and conducting an audit of historical financial information, because that will be already tested in question number 1. and we can easily eliminate completion review and reporting. So the most likely combination of the last question would be other assignments, and we'll dedicate the fourth day of the webinar completely and solely to the other assignments. So that's my plan for the day 3 and day 4. Day 3 syllabus area F, day 4 other assignments. Yes, we discussed the pass rates are very much poor, 32, 33, 32, 33, even sometimes it falls below 30. So the pass rate is so poor because majority of the students are unable to finish their exam. Why they are unable to finish their exam? Because they don't type, they don't practice on the ACCA practice platform. They don't have good enough typing speed, and they try to idealize the ideal answers. They are not aware of the marking scheme, and they tend to ignore the ethical and professional issues and the other assignments. So as a result of all those factors, they tend to fail the exam. Another important reason why students fail this exam so much is they do not attempt the mock exam. And I encourage and requested all of you to make a plan, and the plan should be that you need to attempt a mock exam, at least 2 mock exams, and one of the mock exams should be in the month of May, and the other mock exam should be in the month of June. So yes, we had a detailed discussion on why students fail in AAA. So if you have missed that out, that is the most important part of the whole 4 days of the webinar. So you got to attend the yesterday's session, and you got to focus on those 10 to 15 minutes where I focused why students fail in AAA. I hope you are not going to commit those mistakes which the students all over the world commit so much, and as a result the failure rate is so high. What about my plan? Yesterday we covered planning risk day 1. Today we are going to cover a very underrated topic. I would say underrated. Why I'm saying underrated? Because students tend to ignore professional and ethical consideration. Why? Because they believe incorrect belief. They incorrectly believe that they are already damn good when it comes to professional and ethical considerations, which is clearly not the case. The marking scheme is very challenging. It's very hard to get together full marks. It's very difficult to figure out how I'm going to get the marks. I will be explaining all that with the help of a recent past paper question. So hang on. And we'll also be discussing quality control today. So this is the agenda for the day 2, and as I told you earlier, the agenda for the day 3 is completion review and reporting, and the agenda for the day 4 would be other assignments. Now, very important question: what should be your plan of action after the webinars, at the end of the 4 days? First of all, once you are done with the webinars, you might have already covered bits and pieces of these 8 papers, because we covered December 18 yesterday. We'll be covering December 2020 today. So we'll be covering bits and pieces among those 8 papers. But you got to prepare those 8 papers as religiously as it could be. How are you going to prepare those 8 past papers? You are going to attempt a particular paper in the morning. You are going to evaluate your answer. You are going to evaluate the solution in the afternoon. You are going to draft an attainable answer by looking at the solution, by extracting the chunks of it in the evening, and then you got to read the examiner report again in the evening, and in the night you got to learn your answers. So what I'm trying to say is that you got to prepare 8 most recent past papers available on ACCA website. And once you are preparing those past papers, automatically some kind of notes will be building up: important risk of material misstatement, repetitive ethical issues, and repetitive criticism on the draft auditor's report. So this is how you are going to work out. Post webinars, I will share 5 technical articles in your WhatsApp group, and you got to read them one per day. Master your professional marks. Your 4 professional marks are actually a blessing for you, so you got to master it. And how are you going to master it? And I think there is only one solution. Whenever you are going to attempt those 8 past papers, you should religiously practice those 4 professional marks, and with the help of those 8 days, you will be able to master your 4 professional marks. At the end of the webinar, you should look for the mock exams. You need to plan. I would suggest that the first mock exam you should be attempting on 28th, maybe on 29th of May, and the second mock exam you should be attempting on around 2nd June. So maybe 29th May and 2nd June, you got to make sure an expert marker, expert tutor needs to evaluate at least one of your mock exam. Type. That's the real, critical success factor. If you are going to type, and if you are going to type in right quantity at the right exam platform, which is ACCA's practice platform, you will automatically be able to, familiarize yourself with the tools, familiarize with yourself with the platform, and as a result, you will be able to finish off your paper in the given 3 hours 15 minutes. And as a result, the chances of, making 6 June 2022 a successful day will be on the very higher side. You can always contact me, that's my number, and no worries. Let's move to the today's agenda. Meanwhile, if you have got any questions, you can post it. We'll have a Q&A session once I'm done with the today's topic, which is professional and ethical considerations along with the quality control. Okay, quick Q&A portion. If anyone is interested in the WhatsApp group, you'll post your query in the question section. You'll get the WhatsApp link. Otherwise, at the end of the session, you can contact me, and I'll be happily able to share the WhatsApp link with you. So don't worry about the WhatsApp group. Don't worry about the slides or anything in the WhatsApp group. That if you are going to check out the description, you'll get everything. Okay. Another question from from Nawaz is audit risk. Which day is that covered? We covered audit risk, risk of material misstatement, even the business risk, along with the 4 professional marks yesterday. Don't worry, you will be able to get the recording of the day 1, and I will share the link of the day 1's recording within your WhatsApp group after or at the end of the today's session. Don't worry. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so I would like to cover the syllabus area B and C, professional and ethical considerations, and I would like to, hit quality control as well. Now, if you're wondering where this particular, where this particular topics are going to be tested in your exam, option number 1, these things could be tested within the question number 1. Option number 2, as I told you earlier, one of the question in section B will be completely focused on completion, review, and reporting. So what about the other question? What about the, second question of the section B, overall, the third question? Within that question, professional and ethical considerations along with quality control could be tested. A non-audit assignment could be tested along with that. So let's explore professional and ethical considerations. Then we'll explore, after a while, we'll explore quality control. Okay, let's start from the AA. What is ACCA's Code of Ethics and Conduct? So if you remember, I always say it's a mnemonic called I, COP, square. What about I? Integrity. You have to remain straightforward and honest. You cannot, receive bribe or anything. You have to maintain confidentiality. You have to respect the information which you are going to acquire because of your profession. You have to remain unbiased. You have to maintain objectivity. You are neither in favor of the client nor you are against it. You have to come up with professional competence and due care before accepting any new client. You have to make sure you are competent enough to do the job. That's what your ACCA's Code of Ethics and Conduct says. So you have to maintain your competence. Your client is expecting to receive the most, updated services. So you need to maintain your competence level. Last but not the least, you should not involve yourself with any activity which discredits the profession. So you need to maintain professional behavior. You need to adhere, you need to obey with relevant laws and regulations so that you should be seen and you should be someone who is professional enough. Now, is there any problem with respect to those, fundamental principles? Yes, those fundamental principles, I, COP, square, are at stake. Why they are at stake? Because there are threats to your fundamental principles, threats to your objectivity. We also call it threats to independence. So there are threats. And what are threats? The threats could be, memorized with the help of a mnemonic called massive. The M stands for management threat. Normally in AA, we don't talk much about the management threat. Management threat means as an auditor, you should not be involved in anything which has got to do with the management. So you should not be playing the role of the management. You should not be making decisions on behalf of the management. You should not be involved in the management of the organization. Advocacy threat. You cannot promote or defend your audit client, because you will not be seen as objective if you're going to promote or defend the client. Self-interest. You have to avoid any financial or non-financial interest. Self-review. If you are going to prepare any chunk or portion of the financial statements which is then subject to audit, and if you are going to audit it, A, you will not be able to identify the mistake. B, if you will be able to identify the mistake, you will be reluctant or hesitant to acknowledge that. So that creates self-review threat. Intimidation threat. The client could put you under immense pressure, undue influence. They could, force you for something which is not appropriate, which is not in line with the ACCA's fundamental principles, which is not in line with the, applicable financial reporting framework. So that's what we call intimidation threat. Last but not the least, familiarity threat has got to do with the personal relationships, whether it is family relationship or even, other than family relationship. Long association could create familiarity threat. Now let's jump from AA to AAA. When it comes to AAA, you got to understand the examiner could ask you for ethical issues. Examiner could ask you for professional issues. Examiner could ask you for quality based issues. Last but not the least, number four, examiner could ask you for actions which you need to perform in order to overcome those issues. So what are ethical issues? The scope, the horizon, the vision is very much, wide over here when it comes to AAA. Ethical issues, ICCI. The first I stands for independence threat. Those are the threats which you covered, right now. Massive management threat, advocacy threat, and so on. So all those threats, if the exam question has got anything to do with any of these threats, they fall under the category of ethical issues. The second C among the ICCI is conflict of interest. If you are auditing KFC and McDonald's audit committee has approached you and they would like you to be their auditor, this creates a unique situation called conflict of interest, because KFC and McDonald's are competitors of each other. Even if they are not competitors of each other, let's say I'm auditing company A and company B has approached me, and company A and B are not competitors of each other, but company A and B are heavily involved in trade with each other. Let's say they are the major customers and suppliers of each other. Even then it creates a unique threat called conflict of interest. Why conflict of interest is an ethical issue? Because of conflict of interest, you might compromise on your objectivity and confidentiality. You might be biased in favor of one rather than the other. You might disclose secret information of McDonald's to the KFC and vice versa. So conflict of interest creates two ethical two threat two they create doubts over the two fundamental principles. Number one, objectivity. Number second, confidentiality. This is again an ethical issue. Confidentiality, we have to keep, the confidential information within ourselves. We are not supposed to disclose it. Last but not the least, integrity of the client. If there is anything which creates doubt over the client's integrity, you need to consider it, and you need to consider it as an ethical issue, because as an audit firm, I would like to make sure that I'm not involved with an audit client where their integrity is at stake or where their integrity is compromised. So these four are the ethical issues. What about professional issues? So when it comes to professional issues, we have got another mnemonic called MAP-I. The M stands for money laundering. So if the client is involved in any illegal activities, if their source of income or source of finance is suspicious, will consider it as a professional issue and will consider it as a professional issue, and this is called money laundering. We need to consider if there is anything which will eventually create auditor's liability. Again, this is a professional issue which we need to consider. Practice management incorporates many things such as tendering, advertising, what factors we need to consider before accepting a particular client. So those are all professional issues. Last but not the least, as a professional issue, as an audit firm, we need to consider if there is anything which could have a negative impact on the audit, which could create problems for the auditor, which could create scope limitation or something. So all those are called impact on audit. So this is it. Ethical issues and the professional issues. I've not explored the quality control as yet. What about the exam requirement? The examiner would come up, and almost in every attempt, this is the exam requirement which is available in every attempt. What the exam requirement would be in relation to the audit of, let's say, XYZ company. You as a student, you as an auditor, you as an audit manager, maybe you as a quality control reviewer, you need to evaluate the quality control. I'll explain what quality control means later on. Ethical issues and other professional matters arising in respect of the planning and performance of the XYZ company, or in planning and performance of the group audit. As a student, you got to understand that there are multiple issues: quality control issues, ethical issues, professional issues, and you have to evaluate those issues in respect of the planning and performance. So there are certain things which are compromised when they were planning the client, and there are certain things which are compromised when they were executing, when they were performing the audit. So with respect to the planning and performance of the audit. What about the marking scheme? The marking scheme is a very straightforward one. Generally, up to 1 mark for each point explained. Now, what do I mean by each point explained? So if there is an ethical issue in the question, you got to identify that ethical issue from the question, and then you have to explain why you think that that particular issue would create a problem. And at the end of the day, you have to come up with the solution, that how or what kind of actions could be taken in order to overcome those actions. So there are 3 things which you need to keep in the today's session. What is the problem? What will be extracted from the question itself? What's the problem? What's the ethical issue? What's the quality based issue? Why it is a problem? How bad it is? You have to explain the possible negative implication. So you have to explain why it is a problem, why it is bad, why it is not good. So what's the problem? Why it is a problem? You have to explain it a bit, and then you have to tell me how could we overcome those issues. So you need to come up with actions in order to overcome those problems. So this is a very straightforward approach which you need to keep in your mind, and I want you to write it somewhere. What from the question itself. So what's the problem? What? Why it is bad? Why it is a problem? So you have to explain why. What after what? This is why. So you have to explain. Last but not the least, how. How means how can we take certain actions, or what kind of actions can we take in order to overcome those problems. So generally speaking, if you are going to extract what from the question, and if you could explain it a bit, you can get 1 mark. Otherwise, with the help of what and why, you will definitely get 1 mark, and one action means 1 mark. So there is 1 mark for each point explained. I will explore a recent past paper question, and I'll make you understand what the marking scheme is. Hold on, you have to have a bit of a patience. Now let's explore quality control. So a common requirement in the exam, along with those ethical and professional issues, is to critically evaluate the audit work already performed on an engagement. So just imagine I have performed a particular audit. Now what you have to do, you have to evaluate the audit work already performed. So the work is done and dusted. You have to evaluate the work, and you have to identify if the audit has been carried out to the required standard of quality. So you have to identify the mistakes. You have to identify the loopholes with respect to quality. If the firm does not perform work to a high quality, what's the consequence of that? It increases the risk of issuing an inappropriate opinion, an inappropriate report, which could damage the reputation of the firm and the profession. Why audit firms are so bothered with respect to the quality control? Why audit firms are so concerned? Because if the audit firm is going to make compromises with respect to quality, as a direct result of that, the audit risk becomes higher. If the audit firm has made numerous quality control based, uh, flaws, or there are loopholes, or there are shortcomings, as a result, the audit opinion could be compromised. The reputation of the audit firm would be at stake. So this is why quality control is so important. If you want to understand why quality control is so important, ISQC1, which is a international standard on quality control, and that standard is applicable on an audit firm, and that standard says that an audit firm needs to follow and needs to focus on 6 things in order to make sure that they are applying the highest level of quality. Now, what are those 6 items? HALEEM. So the first is human resource. As an audit firm, we have to make sure that we have got the most competent and experienced and right kind of resources available for the sake of audit. So if we are auditing a manufacturing company, we need to have resources which are experienced and technically competent enough to handle that manufacturing company. So the human resource, this is the responsibility of the audit firm, that they have to make sure that they've got the best human resource available. What about the second element of the ISQC1? The second element is called acceptance and continuance. The second portion, acceptance and continuance. In order to ensure that we come up with the best level of quality, we have to make sure we only accept those clients which are, top notch. We cannot accept each and every audit client. We can only accept those clients where the risk is appropriate, where the integrity of the client is not compromised, where we can handle things. So before accepting or continuing with a particular client, we have to evaluate the risk. We have to evaluate whether we will be able to handle that, whether we have got the resources, whether the risk is manageable one. So this is the second element of the ISQC1. The third element is about the leadership. The audit firm has to make sure that there is a strong and an ethical leadership right at the top of the audit firm. The managing partners have to be top notch. The managing partners have to, the key audit partners, the engagement partners have to take the responsibility. They have to own a particular audit. They cannot rely on the work of the junior. They have to own everything. Number four, in order to make sure we do not compromise on the quality control, we have to maintain the highest level of ethics. So this is the relationship between the ethical and professional issues along with the quality control. So if you want to, come up with the highest level of quality, you have to focus on ethics. So the audit firm has to comply with the ethical requirements such as ICOP square, integrity, confidentiality, and all that stuff. They have to avoid the threats such as advocacy threat, self-interest threat. The bottom line is they have to focus on the ethics. Second last element, the engagement performance. As an audit firm, we have to make sure we come up with a mechanism where we need to ensure that the engagement is performed with an, on a timely basis, with an effective way. So we need to come up with proper direction, supervision, and review. So we have to make sure that every assignment is, properly directed, well supervised, well reviewed. So the engagement performance is an effective way, it's an effective manner through which we can ensure the highest level of quality. Last but not the least, after applying all those principles, we have to monitor the quality as well. And how are we going to monitor? There are two broad approaches of monitoring. Number one, before issuing the audit report or the audit opinion, we will perform a pre-issuance review, and that pre-issuance review is called hot review. And once we are done with the audit report, once we have handed over the audit report, the audit firm would like to perform another review, which is called cold review. So there are two types of reviews: pre-issuance review and post-issuance review. So this is what ISQC1 looks like. There are 6 principles: HALEEM. What about the exam question with respect to quality control? Quality control. In order to assess the quality of the audit, you should consider factors such as, now if you come up with an exam question on quality control, you need to focus on the following things. Number one, this list which I'm going to explain in the next 5 minutes is going to help you a lot in your final exam. You have to watch out, you have to look whether proper auditing standards have been followed during the audit. It's not about the accounting standards. Accounting standards are applied by the client when they are preparing the financial statements. It's about the audit, it's about the quality with respect to audit. So we need to focus whether the standards with respect to auditing have been followed properly. We need to evaluate whether the work has been allocated to the appropriate level of staff. We need to ensure that the work has been what if some very crucial or sensitive activity have been allocated to someone who is not senior enough. So we need to evaluate whether appropriate level of staff have been used with respect to audit. Number third, we need to make sure that the audit is not time pressured. We need to make sure that the audit is not time pressured. How are we going to evaluate whether audit is not time pressured? We need to make sure that good enough time has been allocated to the client. So what if there is an indication that the audit was extremely time pressured? It could lead to compromises on audit quality. Number fourth, has the appropriate type of evidence been obtained? So the right evidence should be obtained. So we have to look for it. Has the appropriate type of audit evidence been obtained? We need to evaluate whether the audit being performed in accordance with the audit plan. What if during the audit team has deviated from the audit plan, which is a serious compromise on the quality control? Okay, second last, has the audit been properly supervised? So we have to make sure that the audit is properly supervised. How are we going to ensure that the audit was properly supervised? We can only verify that by making sure that there was seniors involved in evaluating whether the audit was properly supervised. The involvement of seniors should be there. Last but not the least, we need to make sure that at every point of time, some senior should be reviewing the work of the juniors. So audit manager should review the work of the audit senior, and similarly the engagement partner should take the overall responsibility, and he or she should come up with a proper review. So this is how the quality control question would look like. And more or less we are done with this topic called ethical and professional issues and quality control. Now we need to explore a past paper question. But before we move on to the past paper question, if you've got any questions, let's explore those questions and then we could move on to the past paper question. The past paper question which I have selected for you is from December 2020. So it's a very recent past paper question. And before I take on your questions, let's just read the exam requirement. Comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of Rivers Company. So you have to comment on the quality with respect to planning and performance. Discussing the quality control. So we have to discuss the quality control, ethical and other professional issues raised, and recommending appropriate actions to be taken. So the syllabus area B and C, whatever we studied in the last half an hour, all amalgamated into one requirement. Comment on the quality of the planning and performance of the audit of Rivers Company, discussing the quality control, ethical issues, professional issues, and recommending appropriate actions to be taken. And there is another part B for 10 marks. Evaluate the matters which should be considered before the audit firm accepts the audit of the Broadway group. So what factors we need to consider before accepting a new audit client? So it is something from the practice management. So this question will beautifully, from the December 2020, this particular question will beautifully cover what? The syllabus area B and C. At the end of the day, I will also tell you couple of more questions similar to this, so that tomorrow when you are going to come up for the syllabus area completion review and reporting, you will be super confident with respect to syllabus area B and C. Now before I move on to this question, let's quickly take your questions. Okay. Mohammad Ayaz is saying, sir, how do you see the paper pattern changing from the next attempt? Will it be better for students or not? Please put some light on this. Well, definitely it is going to be beneficial for the students. That's my initial take on that. Why I'm saying that? Because when they are in, when ACCA is going to incorporate 20 professional marks, it is going to help you in your real life, in your professional life. So definitely it is going to be in the best interest of the students. ACCA always come up with changes which are aligned with the industry. So 2 thumbs up. As far as more discussion on that, I think you should not worry about it, because your exam is in 6 June 2022. So let's ignore that. Okay. Okay, there is a question from Umair. There is a past paper named Eagle Company in which examiner is asking about analytical procedures. Please explain marking scheme regarding analytical procedures. In the answer section, the examiner was telling that you can attain maximum of 5 marks, 3 for audit risk, 1 for materiality, 1 for ratios. Okay, Umair, I will start tomorrow's session with the marking scheme of that question called Eagle Company. Another question more or less similar to that called Laurel Company. So hang on. I will I will open up that particular portion of the marking scheme, and I will explain you what's the there is a slight difference in the marking scheme when the question is about analytical procedure. Actually, there are extra marks for the calculations of ratios and trends. So you got to remind this tomorrow, Mayor. Would you? Okay, Hassan, please share the WhatsApp group. You got it. Uh, Sir, can you briefly explain the necessary action to be taken if one of the quality control requirements have been followed as per the standard? Well, Akhil, this question is a very valid question from you, but I think this question will be automatically answered once we are going to explore the question. What do you say about it? I think once we are going to explore the question, automatically things will be answered. Okay, Majbeen has asked a question, sir. For ethics question, if action is not asked, do we have to write action? Well, if the examiner has not asked you for actions, you don't have to write the actions. Simple as that. But in the recent past, examiner is asking for actions. Una Nawaz, need more examples of professional issues. Okay, we'll explore that in the question. Okay, a very, very important question from Nadeem. Do we need to separately mention that this is an ethical issue and this is a professional issue? Okay, that's a very important question. You don't have to bifurcate between ethical and professional issues. But if the issue is relevant to quality control, you should highlight it that this is relevant to quality control. So don't bifurcate between ethical issues or professional issues, but do highlight this is a quality control issue. Is this clear to everyone? Yes, Manzoor, professional issues are separate from quality control issues. Okay, Hassan has asked a question. Can we link 5 elements of quality control, the 6 principles, while answering? Yes, why not? Why not? Okay, so I think it's time to start the question. I think it's time to start the question. And this is a very, very, very serious question. This question is, I think it's probably not available in your exam kit, but this question is definitely among those 8 past papers which you need to prepare. Just like yesterday, yesterday's question was also part of those 8 past papers. So let's explore the question. Let's straight away go to the exam requirement. 15 marks. Comment on the quality of the planning and performance. So you need to just keep that thing in mind, planning and performance. Discussing the quality control, ethical and other professional issues. Let's keep that one, ethical and other professional issues. Let's combine them into one. Quality control, ethical and other professional issues, and recommending appropriate actions to be taken. So there are 3 things: ethical and professional issues, quality control based issues, and we need to come up with recommending appropriate actions. Now you need to keep 3 words in your mind. What is the issue? What's the problem? So what's wrong within the question? What? So you have to keep 3 words in your mind. The first word is what, and we'll extract what from the question. The second word which you need to keep in your mind is why it is bad. Why it is so bad? What's the negative implication? What's the negative consequences? Why it is bad? Why is this bad? So why we need to explain that this could lead to compromises on objectivity, this could lead to self-interest threat, the auditor might lose his professional skepticism, all that stuff. The third word which you need to keep in your mind after what and why is how. And when I say how means how could we come up with certain actions that we want to resolve? How can we improve things? How could we take certain actions in order to overcome those problems? So there are 3 words which you need to keep in your mind. You need to write it somewhere: what, why, and how. Okay, let's explore the question. It is 1st July 20x5. You are an audit manager in an audit firm called Welford and Company. It's a firm of chartered certified accountants. Your role includes performing post-issuance audit quality reviews. So I told you earlier there are 2 types of quality-based reviews. Number 1, pre-issuance. Number 2, post-issuance. The pre-issuance is also known as hot review, where we try to evaluate whether we have made any compromise which could affect the audit opinion. So because it's the pre-issuance, we could change the audit opinion. We could, come up with more procedures, something like that. Post-issuance quality control. What's post-issuance quality control? Post-issuance quality control is also known as cold review, performed by the audit firm. Why they perform post-issuance quality control review? In order to evaluate whether they are exercising the highest level of quality or not. So your role includes performing that post-issuance quality review, and you have been asked to review the audit work performed on the Rivers Company for the financial year ended 31st January 20x5. So the year end was 31st January 20x5, long ago, 4 or 5 months ago. Definitely the audit report has been issued, the audit work has been complete. No, don't worry about that. It's not about the planning stage, it's not about the execution stage, it's not about the completion and review reporting stage. You are done with that. You have gathered the following information from your review of the audit file. So it's about one client called River Company, and here is the information you have extracted from the file. River Company is a listed company operating in the construction industry. Okay, fine. It's a listed company, so you have to keep that thing in mind, that this is a listed company. The company complies with corporate governance regulations and has an audit committee. So they do have an audit committee. They they do follow the corporate governance regulations. Okay, fine. River Company has been an audit client of the audit firm for 8 years. No problem with that. If they are an audit client for 8 years, there is no problem with that. And Bob Newbold has been an audit engagement partner during this time. Is there any ethical issue over here? Is there any ethical issue over here? Please participate. Yes, that particular engagement partner, his name is what? Bob. He is there as an engagement partner for straight 8 years, which is not in line, which is not in line with the uh, ethics standard board's guideline. This is not in line with the standard board guideline. So as a result, this creates familiarity threat. This also creates self-interest threat. Okay, so we finally found an ethical issue. 8 years. So what's the issue? 8 years. River Company's audit report was signed by Bob Newbold and issued last week. The report contained an unmodified opinion. So I'm done with the first paragraph. I found one very important issue out of it. Now let's see how the solution would shape up. How we need to come up with the answer. Okay. First of all, there is a brief, introductory sentence, introductory paragraph. A review of the information relating to the audit of River Company indicates many problems with how the audit has been planned and performed, which imply that the audit has not been performed in accordance with ISA 220 quality control for an audit of financial statement. So you got to learn this sentence. Any question of such type, you got to start with a sentence like that we have performed the review and we have realized that there are too many quality control and ethical issues. So here are the issues. So it's an introductory sentence which you need to learn. The real answer according to the marking scheme starts from here. There is a heading called audit partner rotation. Now let's see. Bob Newbold has been acting as an engagement partner for 8 years. So this is the issue which we have extracted from the question. This alone would not give you 1 mark. You have to add something. As River Company is a listed company, this goes against the requirement of the code of the code, which requires that an individual shall not act as an engagement partner for more than 7 years. This is it. We are done with 1 mark. We are done with 1 mark. Give me a second. So this will give you 1 mark. How this is going to give you 1 mark? Let me explain how. Long association of our audit partner breaches the IESBA code 7-year maximum period allowed. So this is going to give you 1 mark. Is this clear? This is going to give you 1 mark. If a student is going to say, Mr. Bob has been the engagement partner for 8 years, that's it. That alone will not give you 1 mark. But if you are going to say that breaches the maximum period allowed by IESBA, which is 7 years, so it is not in line with the ACCA code of ethics and conduct, that will give you what? 1 mark. So read it again. Bob has been acting as an audit engagement partner for 8 years. That does not give you 1 mark. As River Company is a listed company, that is against the code which states that an individual should not be engagement partner for more than 7 years. Now you have got 1 mark. So that was what is the problem. Now we have to explain why it is a problem. The problem is that long association of the engagement partner with the client leads to self-interest threat to the auditor, objectivity, where the audit firm's judgment is affected by concern over losing the long-standing client. So this is the problem. This is why. The problem is that this creates self-interest threat. And How this creates self-interest threat? Because the audit firm would have apprehensions in their mind that they do not wish to lose the client. So they would like to continue with that particular individual, that okay, fine, if we are going to remove that individual, what if we lose that client? So this is, you are explaining what problem it could create. That this is what I called why this is a problem. This is a problem because this will create self-interest threat. This will create self-interest threat. The objectivity will be compromised and you will have concern over losing the client. Another why, another problem. Now again, this would also lead you 1 mark. Let's see if this will give us 1 mark or not. Self-interest threat identified and explained. This will give you 1 mark. Long association, that gave you 1 mark. Okay, let's go back to the solution. Okay, there may also be a familiarity threat. Many of you in the question section raised that this would lead to familiarity threat. Yes, no doubt about it. This would lead to familiarity threat because of the close relationship between the engagement partner and the management of reverse company. Why close relationship? Because he's involved for the 8 years. As a result of that, there is a huge possibility that the engagement partner, let's say Ahmed, would lose the professional skepticism, and that will have impact on the audit quality. So this is another point for you. This could also lead to familiarity threat because of the close relationship between the audit engagement partner and the management of river company, and as a result he will lose the professional skepticism and it could have impact on the audit quality. An average student might not be able to write it could also have impact on quality, but an average student would be able to write that this also leads to familiarity threat because of the long association, long relationship, and as a result of that, there is a huge possibility that the engagement partner has already lost the professional skepticism. So this will give you another 1 mark. See, this is how we get 1 marks per point. Familiarity threat with respect to Bob, if you're going to explain it, you are going to get another 1 mark. Finally, you need to come up with certain what? Action. You need to come up with action, right? So what should be the action? This is especially the case given Bob is performing additional non-audit services for the client, which will be discussed later. Bob Newbold should be replaced. So Bob Newbold should be replaced as soon as possible by another audit engagement partner. So this is what your action is. So my dear students, out of that story where Mr. Bob or Mr. Ahmed is associated with a particular client for the straight 8 years, keep that thing in mind that that particular client is a listed company. You can get 4 easy marks. If a student is going to check out the past paper, he or she will be too much under pressure. How I'm going to get marks? This is a 15-mark question. Are you feeling confident that you can get 4 marks out of the 15 required marks by using that story? Can you get 4 marks now? Is it doable now? So I told you yesterday, I just want you to extract an attainable answer out of the past paper answer. It's very easy for me to come up with my own answer, but majority of you will be wondering whether we can extract that or not, whether we can write such like Sir Ahmed is expressing the sentences. But when we are going to come up with an easy solution, it will seem doable, or with the passage of time things will become easier for you. Obviously you need to work harder. Okay, majority of you have posted many questions. I'll have a Q&A session once I'm done with this particular part A. So hang on, I'm not going to skip those questions. I'll come back to that. As of now, I want you to participate. So as of now, I've scored 4 marks. How? Just a quick recap. I have explained, I've identified what's the issue. Mr. Bob is the engagement partner for 8 years. This alone would not get me 1 mark, but I explained it a bit that this is not in line with the ACCA's code of ethics and conduct, especially considering the fact this is a listed company. Now I got 1 mark. This would create self-interest threat because client would like to make sure that the client is not lost. So they would like to continue the relationship with the client. So this creates self-interest threat. They will be having concern over the they might lose the client. So that's the point number 2. That's the second mark. Third threat, that particular individual, not the firm, that particular individual would be having familiarity threat, and he will lose the professional skepticism. The fourth mark is you have to recommend an action, and as soon as possible, Mr. Bob should be replaced with a new engagement partner. There is one more mark available. There is one more mark available. How? Guys, please realize that the Mr. Bob has been the engagement partner for 8 years. And you are also supposed to evaluate the quality control issues. What the hell is audit firm doing? Why they were not having policies and procedures in order to evaluate whether a particular person is involved for more than 7 years? Why they were not having a systematic method? Why they did not evaluate this issue earlier on? So this is a quality control issue, and this is a compromise on quality, which could lead to compromise on the audit opinion. So there is a potential for another mark. Congratulations. Let's read the next paragraph. The fact that Bob has been allowed to continue as an audit engagement partner for more than 7 years indicates that audit firm is not having appropriate policies and procedures designed to provide with reasonable assurance. So this is not in line with ISQC 1. So the firm should review whether monitoring of the length of time of the audit engagement partner is operating effectively or not. So there is another thing. This is not in line with ISQC 1. The firm does not seem to have appropriate policies and procedures designed to provide with reasonable assurance. So this is a compromise in accordance with ISQC 1. This is another 1 mark opportunity for you, and this has got to do with quality. Remember, you are supposed to evaluate quality based issues as well. Let's see. So this was the recommendation. So this was the recommendation. Now, firms monitoring of the length of time partners act for clients seems deficient. So this is the 5th mark which you can extract from this particular story, this particular situation. Is this clear to everyone? 5 marks. Can I have a confirmation that all of you are clear with respect to 5 mark? Armagan has asked a question. For every thread we have to write an action. It's not necessary, but if you know an action for a particular thread, why would you lose a mark? So if you know an action, go on, get the mark. Ramagan, is this clear to you? Okay, Avas, absolutely yes. And Mohammad Ayaz, clear, fantastic. So we have already scored 5 mark. We have hardly read any question. Congratulations. Let's continue with the question. Welford and Company requires its staff to record each hour they spend working on each client in the firm's time management system. So everybody, records their time. Good. From reviewing the time records relating to the audit of Rivers Company, you are aware that Bob and other audit team members recorded the following amount of time on the audit. So the partner has only allocated 2 hours. Wow. So the engagement partner has just allocated 2 hours on the entire audit. Considering it's a listed company, for heaven's sake, this is not enough. This seems to be a huge compromise on quality on itself. A good student can create a quality based issue out of this. 2 hours from Mr. Bob, that's not appropriate at all. It's not acceptable on any given day, not at all. The senior audit manager, just 6 hours. Audit manager, reasonable 35 hours. But we have to evaluate whether audit manager is sufficiently experienced enough, competent enough. 6 audit assistants, which are hardly competent, they have allocated 130 hours. So let's see if there is anything relevant to the Bob, especially with respect to only 2 hours. Okay, Bob has worked only 2 hours for the audit work performed on Rivers. So this is the issue. I told you the technique. What's the issue? So this is the issue from the question, and you are not going to get any significant mark. You're not going to get 1 mark on that. So you have identified the issue from the question. You're not going to get any mark for that. So what's the issue? The engagement partner has only allocated 2 hours on an entire audit of a listed company. You're not going to get mark because there is not enough explanation. But we could, what's the next word? What after what? Why this is, and why this is bad? Why this is an issue? This is an issue because this is not sufficient time for the audit partner to perform their duties adequately. This does not seem appropriate. This 2 hour does not seem to be adequate considering he's a partner. The audit partner is required to take the overall responsibility for the supervision and performance of the audit. So this particular sentence is what? This is your why. Even if an average student would say this does not seem to be sufficient in order to ensure that the duties are adequately performed, this will give you now complete 1 mark. So what's the issue? The partner has given only 2 hours. Why it is so bad? It is so bad because these are not adequate hours and you might not be able to perform your duties appropriately. Now you need to come up with an action, right? He should have spent, past tense, because it's done and dusted. He should have spent an appropriate amount of time performing a review of the audit working papers in order to be satisfied that sufficient appropriate audit evidence has been obtained in accordance with ISA 220. So if you are not, if you could skip ISA 220, no problem, still you will get the marks. So this is the action. Are you guys clear? Will you be able to extract 2 marks here? Not one, not 3, 2 marks. What's the issue? Mr. Ahmed has only given 2 hours. This is not good enough because as a result, I won't be able to perform my duties adequately. What should be the action? I need to devote and dedicate more time. I should have dedicated more time in order to gather sufficient appropriate audit evidence in order to maintain the highest level of quality. Are you clear with 2 more marks now? Let's see what the marking scheme has to offer. Audit partner should have spent more time on the audit, in particular on the final review. The total amount, the action, the total amount of time spent on the audit appears low for the audit of a listed company. No, sorry, that's a different point. That's a different point. So there is another mark available in the marking scheme, but you could also come up with an action that ideally speaking, he should have invested more time. Yes, Akhil, he should have spent adequate time, which is necessary. Yes, you're absolutely right. Okay, Mohattar has asked a question: how much hours of audit work are appropriate for partner to work on audit? Well, examiner is not going to come up with such a tricky question because it's a subjective matter. But you have to realize it's a listed company and just 2 hours of the partner. Well, I will spend 2 hours in the introduction. So 2 hours does not seem to be appropriate. Okay, let's go back to the question again. Okay, another mark could be obtained from this point. Anyone? What's the issue here? Anyone? Total time spent on audit. No, there is no benchmark, but the examiner, if going to raise such an issue, the things will be so obvious and straightforward that you don't have to be in a situation, in a land of confusion, Manoj. Examiner will come up with straightforward thing. Yes, Candy, absolutely perfect. Too little time spent for a listed company's audit. So now we are going to criticize about the 173 hours. Let's see if there is anything in the solution. 173 hours. Okay, there is also an issue around the overall amount of time which has been recorded for the audit work performed on this client, which is the total of 37 hours, 173 hours. This is what we call what's the issue. You have identified the issue from the question. Now you have to explain why it is bad. These 173 hours does not seem to be sufficient for the audit of a listed company. And as a result, there could have been compromises on the audit quality. There could have been compromises on audit quality. Maybe inadequate time was spent on planning and performing the audit. Remember these two words. Remember these two words, planning and performing the audit. If you are going to allocate just 173 hours for the whole audit, I'm sure you have not allocated good enough time on the planning, not good enough time on the performance of the audit. So will you be able to score marks out of it? Let's see if this is available in the marking scheme. Yes, the total amount of time spent on the audit appears low for the audit of specially listed company, and as a result it will have implications on the audit quality. Is this clear to everyone? Can I have confirmation? Okay, what, why, and how? Are we gonna get 3 marks or 2? Umair has asked a question. Normally, Umair, with the help of what and why, you'll get 1 mark, and with the help of how, you'll get another mark. So overall 2 marks. But on a sometimes you will be able to explain what is the problem, such as it is not in line with the ACCA's code of ethics and conduct. So you might be able to get another mark from there. So let's keep it simple. What and why will give you 1 mark, and how will give you another 1 mark. Is this clear, Umair? Phillips has asked a question. What do you think is an adequate time? Again, I have to emphasize that examiner is not going to test you like that. The time, if they are going to mention, will be straightforward. You won't have to decide whether it is adequate or not adequate. It would be so simple. Let's keep it that way, that 300 400 hours seems to be adequate. 40 50 70 hours of the partner seems to be adequate. It's a matter of professional judgment. I can't exactly answer that. No necessary action taken place. uh, okay, Mothar is asking, I knew 2 hours were not enough, but 173 hours looked enough to me. 173 hours, including the planning, execution, final review, that does not seem adequate as well, especially it's a listed company. Okay, it's not adequate. Is this clear? Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go back to the question. It is apparent from your review that almost all of the detailed review of the audit working papers was completed by Anisa. Who's Anisa? Anisa is the audit manager. So Anisa has performed what? He has performed the detailed review of the audit working papers. All the review was performed by audit manager. So no review was performed by senior audit manager, nothing on a sample basis by engagement partner, everything by Anisa, who has evidenced her review by stating final review on each page of the audit file. She has recently been promoted to audit manager. Now, there are many issues over here. Take your time, please read this little paragraph, try to figure out the issue. Issue number 1, she does not seem to be competent enough because she has just been promoted to the audit manager. Secondly, she has performed all the reviews. Nobody from the audit manager or the engagement partner has performed any review whatsoever. Last but not the least, when she performs the review, she just state final review on each page, which is not appropriate. She should have signed those documents. So there are many quality based issues over here. Let's see what the solution has to offer. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I have missed it. Let's see what's in the marking scheme. See, inappropriate delegation of tasks. The junior auditor manager lacks experience. Yes, the junior manager lacks experience, and all the reviews have been delegated to that individual. So this is another one mark which is available. What's the issue? All the review has been delegated to one individual, and that individual has recently been promoted, so she does not seem to be have good enough experience for that particular job. Okay, you are also aware that Bob has booked a total of 40 hours to Rivers Company, which is the client, in respect of non-audit work performed. The only information you can find in the documentation is that non-audit work relate to a special investigation, and that Bob confirms that it does not create a threat to the auditor objectivity. The total fee charged for the audit was $250,000, and the fee for the special investigation was almost more than 3 times, almost 4 times, which is 890,000. So this audit file is having no information what that other or non-audit work was, and how they managed to counter those ethical issues which would have been created, threats to objectivity. So Bob, what's the issue? Bob is involved in 40 hours performing non-audit work or audit related work. So this creates a self-interest threat, because audit firm is might be having too much financial revenue driving from that particular client from the non-audit work. Let's see. The fact that 890,000 was charged for this special investigation indicates that it was a substantial engagement. There is a possibility that in fact no work has been performed. There is a risk that this 890,000 was a bribe. So the client has given you bribe, and on paper they have come up with an arrangement that okay fine, you are performing a work, but there is no detail relevant to that work. This would be a very serious issue and could be perceived as a bribe, and this should be investigated with urgency. So what's the issue? The client has assigned the audit partner for $890,000 for some non-audit work. There is no detail with respect to that non-audit work. What was that? How did they approach? How did they manage that work? So this could be a bribe. So this is again an ethical issue, which however there are also possible threats to auditor objectivity, including self-interest threat. Another issue, self-interest threat due to the monetary value. The monetary value seems to be too big, considering we are only allocating 40 hours and we are getting 890,000 out of it. This seems to be a very this seems to be a self-interest threat. And another familiarity threat, considering Mr. Bob is involved along with the audit in non-audit assignments as well, his additional involvement with the client also leads to familiarity threat, which was discussed earlier as well. A self-interest threat is created as the value of the service provided is substantial compared to the audit fee. The fact that non-audit fee are so high would create proportionally bigger intimidation threat. The client would be able to come up with intimidation threat because they are paying you so much, not only for the audit but for the non-audit services as well. So you might compromise on the objectivity because you don't wish to lose the client, and the client could exploit this situation and they could come up with the intimidation threat. So these are few more points available. Let's explore the final part of the question, which is about the going concern. From reviewing the audit working papers, you are aware that going concern was identified as a significant audit risk at the planning stage of the audit due to low profit margins or losses being made on many of the company's construction contracts and increasing economic uncertainty. So at the planning stage, we realize that going concern is a serious issue. The company has typically 20 contracts ongoing at any time. No ethical or quality control issue as of now. Please, dear students, read this paragraph all over again. I have got no quality control issue in it. It's a background, it's a build up. Now read, now concentrate. There is a name, Mary. Who is Mary? Who is Mary? Uh, Mary is not the engagement partner. Mary is not the senior audit manager. Mary is not the audit manager. So Mary has to be one of the audit assistant. Let's see. Most of the audit work on going concern was performed by Mary, an audit assistant who has just taken her last professional exam and is not yet qualified. What's the issue? What's the issue? If you could help me. Can you help me out? What's the issue? Yes, that particular individual is not competent enough. He or she might not be having good enough experience. That's a very subjective area, very complicated area, very sensitive area. Going concern is a very tricky part. Moreover, at the planning stage, it was realized that going concern is significantly at stake. So the work has been allocated to someone who is not competent enough, not senior enough. So this is, this is a serious compromise. This is not in line with ISQC1. So you should have, allocated the resources to the right individual. Audit of the going concern should have been allocated to the right person. Having that particular individual, Mary, might not have good enough professional skepticism because she's not qualified. Let's see what the solution. Let's read the question. Continue the question first. The majority of the work performed on going concern focused on a review of 5 major contracts to determine their profitability. Is there any issue? When they were evaluating going concern, they focused on 5 contracts out of the 20 contracts available. What's the issue? What's the issue? Only 5 contracts out of the 20 contracts are subject to testing. What if? Yes, the sample size does not seem to be appropriate, especially considering the fact that it's about going concern. It's about a very sensitive issue. The losses are so big, according to the question from the planning stage. There are very much, uncertainty with respect to economic conditions. So again, another mistake. The sample size is not appropriate. Let's continue the question. This is second mistake. First mistake, the job is not assigned to the right individual. Second mistake, the sample size is not appropriate, especially considering the situation. Let's continue with the question. The management of Rivers Company identified the major contracts for review and provided Mary with forecasts indicating the contracts would make a small profit. Is there any other issue in this sentence? The management of Rivers Company identified the major contracts. So, okay, fine, 5 contracts were identified. But who has identified those contracts? Who is identifying them? It's not the auditor. No, it's not called the management threat. It's not called the management threat, Akhil. Yes, Mr. Ayaz, Majameen, Almas, your guys are Unar Nawaz, you're absolutely right. Why the hell management are selecting the, the projects which need to be evaluated? It's the auditor's job. I will be selecting the projects. Audit partner has to select this. Audit firm has to select this. If the how are you going to explain it? What's bad in it? If the management is going to select, they will definitely select those projects which are promising, which are good, which are, which seems to be on the right path. Yes, Phillips, there are so many problems with this audit. You are absolutely right. Umair, there is no self-interest over here. Yes, Manoj Kumar, they must be coming up with cherry picking. So they will be, picking up the right cherries just to make sure that auditor is deceived as beautifully as it could be. Well done. Okay, Mary confirmed that the assumptions used in the forecast agreed to assumptions used in the previous years and concluded that the contracts which she had reviewed support the going concern status of the company. Is there any mistake again? Mary confirmed that the assumptions used in forecast agreed to the assumptions used in the previous years. You cannot rely on the last year's assumptions. You cannot agree this year's assumption with the last year. Going concern has to do with the future. You have to evaluate the current economic situation, the current losses which happened in the current year. You cannot rely on the past. So the technique used by Mary in order to evaluate the assumptions, in order to figure out the going concern assumption, is not appropriate. So that is the fourth mistake I have. What was the first mistake? Mary was not the right individual. Second mistake, only 5 contracts were selected. Third mistake, management has decided which contracts would be evaluated. Fourth mistake, the assumptions have been agreed with the last year, which is not the right idea. Having reviewed these major contracts, Mary completed the conclusion on going concern, stating there is no significant uncertainty over going concern. It means there was no review performed, another quality-based issue. So one can easily score 5 marks, I believe, from this going concern paragraph. One can easily obtain 5 marks from that Mr. Bob involved for the last 8 years, 10 marks. And one can easily score 2 marks, Bob only allocating 2 hours. One can easily score another 1 mark by criticizing only 173 hours are available, 12 marks. One can easily criticize that Miss Anissa, she's not the right individual and she's performing all the reviews. One can criticize on the self-interest threat because of the significant fee from the non-audit work. So this is a 15-mark question. And let's check the marking scheme. Okay. Inappropriate delegation of work on going concern to an inexperienced audit assistant. You'll get 1 mark by criticizing that Mary is not the right person. Then you'll get another 1 mark if you are going to realize that out of 20, only 5 projects were selected, which is not that great considering the sensitivity of the situation. You will get another 1 mark if you're going to criticize that management has identified those projects, which should not be the case. They cannot identify, they can't come up with cherry picking. Then you'll get another 1 mark if you are going to say that the assumptions should have been challenged in accordance with this year rather than prior year, another 1 mark. Similarly, you can get another 1 mark by saying these ethical and quality based issues should have been identified by the audit committee, considering there is an audit committee in the firm, but the audit committee seems to be sleeping. Is this clear? Is this clear to everyone? Now I want to ask one simple question. Please answer this question, everyone. I need all of you to participate. If you could invest 2-3 hours on this part A, question and solution, if you could drive your own answer, if you could type your own answer for 15 marks, 15 16 solid points, and then if you could learn it, can you feel confident after investing 2-3 hours on part A? Can you prepare this part A now? Can you teach this part A to anyone? Can you teach this part to anyone? That's what I wanted to hear. Definitely yes. Thank you very much. So it's not a mission impossible. The past paper answers seems to be overwhelming, but you could extract certain chunks. You could ignore certain things, and this is how the job is done. And trust me, the questions are more or less similar like that. Yes, if there is an issue which will lead to quality, you could say that this is another quality based issue which could impact audit opinion. You could say that. Most of the answers in the question, yes, definitely doable. That's great. Okay, before I move on, let me check out if there are any questions which I have not answered as of now. Okay, you don't have to separately mention that this is an ethical issue, this is a professional issue. Ignore that. Extract the headings from the question. You don't have to come up with ethical issues heading with, you don't have to come, dear students, you don't have to come up with professional issues heading. You don't have to come up with quality control heading. You don't have to come up with professional issues heading. No, no, no. Extract the headings from the question, such as audit of going concern, such as long association of Bob, something like that. Audit committee, something like that. Yes, we need to rotate after 7 years, and that individual cannot be involved for the next 5 years. The cooling off period for the partner is 5 years, not 2 or 3 years as it used to be. It's 5 years now, the cooling off period. Okay, Mohammed Bilal Siddiqui, you'll be added in the WhatsApp group. I will mention my WhatsApp number and you'll get, I'll add you in the WhatsApp group. Don't worry. Okay, Evian has come up with a very, very valid point. 75% of the total time was utilized by junior staff. That's not appropriate. Very well done. Thank you, Manoj. Zabardast. Can we get any marks for calculation of some percentage in this question? Not really. What are you going to calculate? Not really. Okay. Okay, Manzoor Hussain has come up with a question, very detailed one. Muhammad Yaz, no, this is not a case for low balling. Ignore low balling as of now. Cami Phillips has asked a question. Is he allowed to do both jobs? He's allowed to do both jobs provided they ensure objectivity, confidentiality, and all those ACCA fundamental principles. Okay, Manzoor has raised a long question. Sir, if question asked to discuss ethical, professional, and quality control issues in one question, yes, it is a very common question. Then should in one question of suppose 12 marks, okay, fine, 12 marks, then should we give specific headings of each above categories like ethical, professional? No, no, no. Are you clear, Manzoor? The answer is no. You should extract headings from the answer, from the question. Manoj Kumar, this is from September, December 2020. This is right in the middle of COVID. This past paper question is from December 20. Okay, I thought that a second group, no. Yes, Una Nawaz, you were right. Audit assistant is taking a lot of responsibility for a critical piece of work in regard of going concern, which is not appropriate. You have to criticize that. Very well done. All of you, Majabeen, Farah, Tina, very well done. Almas, risk of management bias. No, risk of management. Yes, risk of management bias, but use some other word. Yes, management would be, management would come up with, would suggest those projects which are, doing great. Yes, you're right. Daniel Razak has asked a question, how many issues to be identified to score 15 marks? In order to get 15 marks, you have to discuss 15 things. Out of those 15 things, there will be certain what and why, and there will be certain how. Daniel, is this clear? Yes, Manzoor, you were absolutely spot on. So the assumptions or the procedures of the last year are not that relevant. Going concern has got to do with the future. If you have to evaluate, you have to evaluate the current situation, the current losses, the current economic condition, rather than the assumptions from the last year. Okay, what necessary actions which should be taken for the problems identified in this para? Well, the audit engagement partner has to take the responsibility for the going concern. They need to increase the sample size and they need to come up with, uh, with more detailed work on going concern. Okay, Manoj has asked a question. What will be the conclusion here? Okay, we'll go to that. What Isabel has asked a question. What type of conclusion will earn 1 mark? Okay, we'll going towards the conclusion. Does not audit and a non-audit should be performed by two separate teams? Well, ideally, yes, two separate teams, but they could perform if there is a situation, if there is an emergency or something like that. Is this a complete answer? Yes, it is a complete answer. Manoj has asked a very important question. We have not studied ethical and professional issues in great detail when it comes to AAA. Yes, we did in AA, but not in AAA. So what is the solution? How can we overcome that? You should not refer to AA. You should not go back to AA book or kit. You should focus on the past paper questions with respect to this topic. In your question file, which is available to you, I have selected 3 questions relevant to this exam requirement. Number 1, this question called reverse company. The second question, Macau, which is also available in your exam kit. Number 3rd, retriever. Again, that question is also available in your exam kit. So at least 3 questions in which you have to evaluate the ethical and the quality control issues. So if you need to add 2 more, so 5 questions similar to that, and you are up there. You are up there for 15 out of 15. Okay, let's explore the conclusion. So conclusion could give you 1 mark. What could be the conclusion? Conclusion. From the discussion above, it can be seen that there are many problems with the audit of reverse company. Bob appears to have ignored his responsibilities as the audit engagement partner, and the audit firm need to discuss this with him. Consider further training or possibly taking disciplinary action against him. Audit firm need to implement procedure to ensure all work is carried out at the appropriate level of personnel with the appropriate experience, and that the training is given to staff to ensure they understand the client does not pick or specify the audit work to be carried out in any area, or it is to be selected by the audit team. So if you feel that this conclusion is difficult for you, you can still get 15 out of 15 by ignoring the conclusion. Now, what's the conclusion? When in the conclusion, the examiner is trying to say that you need to understand that there are many quality and ethical issues within this particular client, especially there are many sensitive issues relevant to the partner. The partner does not seem to care less. The partner is not, fully aware of the situation. He's not devoting good enough time. So the audit firm needs to, come up with disciplinary action. And overall, the audit firm needs to come up with training for the audit juniors, because they seem to have missed out the point that they cannot take instructions from the client. So this could be your conclusion, and this could give you 1 mark. Is this clear? Are you clear with conclusion? Overall, you have to summarize things. It's not mandatory to put the conclusion. If you are running short of ideas and you want to extract 1 mark from the conclusion, you can do so, but it's not mandatory. Manoj, you can't do that. You cannot split 5 marks for quality issues, 5 marks for ethical and professional, 5 marks for action. No, you can't do that. It's the situation will vary according to the question. So Manoj, I am requesting you that you have to invest 2 hours tonight on this question called reverse. You have to invest another 2-3 hours tomorrow in the morning on a question called retriever, another 2-3 hours on a question called Macau, and then you will be able to realize that things will vary according to the situation. You can't come up with a formula, 5 marks for ethical, 5 months. No, examiner has not stated that the marks will be split equally. No, not at all. Is this clear, Manoj? That's great. So okay, now it's time to have a little break. It's right now 10:04. So the break will be for exact 11 minutes. Exact 11 minutes. And once we are after the 11 minutes, what's the agenda after the break? After the break, we'll finish off this December 2020 past paper question, and we'll explore the part B, what factors we need to evaluate before accepting a particular client. That's going to be the part B. And we'll explore another question on ethical and quality control issues. It's called retriever. So hang on, all your queries, all your confusions with respect to this topic, ethical and quality issues, and in fact, the homework which Manoj and all of you are going to attempt tonight and tomorrow will become a lot more easier if you are going to hang up till the end of the today's session. So hang on, I'll see you exactly after 10 minutes. 10 minutes. The break is for 10 minutes. See you soon. Okay then. So before we move on, I have got a question from Fazila, and she has asked and she has raised a very, very, genuine question. And that question has got to do with the presentation of your answer on the final exam day. So just imagine I am an ordinary student attempting my AAA exam, and if I am writing my exam, how I'm going to come up with that? This new bold has been acting for 8 years. The problem is self-interest. The problem is familiarity. He should be replaced as soon as possible. The firm needs to evaluate what are they are doing with their policies. So those 5 marks, how I'm going to write that? What could be the presentation? My dear students, you should come up with small five paragraphs, 5 things in 5 small paragraphs. You should not amalgamate those 5 things into one massive paragraph. Don't idealize those ACCA answers. Make the job of the marker easy. It is in your best interest. So if you are going to highlight and identify that Mr. Ahmed is the partner for 8 years, and this is not in line with the ACCA's code of ethics and conduct, so split them up. Now you are trying to discuss this could lead to self-interest. Move to the next line. Move to the next line, or maybe next to next line. So split your answers. Leave white spaces between your answers. Make the job of the marker easier. Make sure there are white color in between your black. So it has to be in the black and white form. It should not be all black. So split them up, make it look easy, make it look bright, make it look more convenient for the marker. As why would I, as a student, would amalgamate self-interest and familiarity threat into one, where I could amalgamate those, where I could split them into two? Self-interest would be a concern for the audit firm, because they would like to ensure that they do not lose that client. So that's a separate thing. Whereas Mr. Bob is there for 8 years. As a result of that long association and familiarity, he might become too sympathetic, or he might lose the professional skepticism. That's a separate point. Split them up, split them up, split them up. So all those different colors are different marks opportunity. Agreed? That yellow is 1 mark. That, you know, that ferosy bluish color is 1 mark. That green is 1 mark. That purplish color is 1 mark. That orange is 1 mark. You have to split all those marks. Don't come up with one massive paragraph, gelled all points into one. No, you need to come up with one heading: audit partner rotation, and then small 4 or 5 paragraphs, and it will be so easier for you to identify how many marks you have obtained. Yesterday I remember somebody was saying a very valid point. Somebody raised a very valid point yesterday, that it is so easy to get carried away in AAA. The temptation to overwrite is on the higher side. I don't remember who said it, but those were the keywords. So somebody said yesterday that the temptation to overwrite is on the very higher side in AAA. When you are going to split them up, you will realize, I'm done with 1 mark. Come on, Ahmed, you need to move to the next point. Why are you writing a book out of it? Why are you, trying to get, why are you trying to emphasize the whole world over in 1 point? You are only going to get 1 mark. So by splitting, by exploding, yes, Ekbola, you are right. Thank you. You raised a very valid point yesterday. So um, by making sure you split the point, this will be a self check on yourself, that yes, I'm done with good enough thing. I've highlighted the issue, I've explained it. Now I need to move on. I don't have to write words and sentences on it. Fazila, the twist could be if the examiner could come up with one twist, and that one twist is the examiner would say, discuss the ethical and professional issues and come up with appropriate actions. What's the twist? What did I miss? What's the twist? Yes, The examiner could skip the quality control issues. That's it. In that case, the whole focus will be on integrity, confidentiality, self-interest, advocacy, familiarity, conflict of interest. So the focus will be more on ethical issues, money laundering, any issue which could lead to auditor's liability. So the focus will be on ethical and professional issues. But I want you to prepare yourself for both ethical and professional issues and quality control issues. Is this clear, Fazila? What could be the twist? Your answers should be pleasant to the eyes. And for that to happen, you need to split your points. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Crystal Clear. Okay, let's finish off the question. We have already secured 15 marks. This is from September, December 2020. I will mention the names of the questions along with the years in the WhatsApp group. Don't worry. Okay, what about the part B? Evaluate the matters which should be considered before the audit firm accepts the audit of a client called Broadway Group. Now, this is something relevant to even AA. This is very, very, very much relevant to AAA. This is what we call practice management. Before accepting an audit client, there are certain things which we need to evaluate. What are those things which you need to evaluate before accepting any audit client? There is a mnemonic called triple P, triple R, IMMF, preconditions for an audit, professional clearance, professional competence, resources, risk, um, integrity of the management integrity, all those factors. But at least broadly speaking, there are 2-3 factors which you need to consider before accepting the client. Number one, do we have the competence to perform the audit? Do we have the competence to perform the audit? We need to evaluate the ethical issues. Number third, we need to evaluate the integrity of the client. So those 2-3 things are the most important ones. So among all the past papers I have evaluated up till now, these 3 things make the major part of your answer. What are those? Number one, do we have the competence resources to do the job? Professional competence and resources, availability of the resources. Competence and resources, more or less one and the same thing. Number second, the integrity of the client. If it is intact, if there are doubts over the integrity, I might want to avoid them. Last but not the least, if there is any other ethical issue. So 3 headings you need to keep in your mind. Number one, competence and resources. Number second, ethical issues. Number third, the integrity of the client. Is this clear? Is this clear? Yes, client screening, skills, resources. Yes, well done, well done. Yes, very well done. Okay, so you guys are ready for this question. Okay, you have also been asked to consider the acceptance of a potential new client, and the name of that client is called Broadway Group. Welford and Company, your audit firm, has recently approached by the audit committee of that group to become their auditor. Okay, fine. The parent company of the group, Broadway Company, is a listed company, and the group has a total of 14 subsidiaries. So they've got 14 subsidiaries. Wow. 10 of which are foreign subsidiaries. So out of 14 subsidiaries, 10 are foreign subsidiaries. So we need to evaluate whether we have the competence and resources to handle the foreign subsidiaries as well. Keep that in mind. The group is a food processor, and each of its foreign subsidiaries provides a particular ingredient used in the group's main processing plant, which is based in this country. The subsidiaries produce raw ingredients including corn, wheat, vegetable, and nuts. So this is a specialized kind of a client. So we need to consider whether we have got the competence to handle this particular client, because all those subsidiaries are relevant to agriculture. Do we have the resources to handle the agriculture based clients? Do we have the recent experience? Will we be able to perform the stock take? This is a specialized client. They are not performing an ordinary job. They are agriculture based clients. So we need to evaluate the competence and the availability of resources with respect to this client. This is going to give us marks. If the audit firm decides to accept the appointment, so as of now, what points I've identified? Wait, 10 subsidiaries are foreign subsidiaries. Raw ingredients, so specialized type of a client. Okay. If Welford and Company decide to accept appointment, it will provide the audit for the group consolidated financial statements and for the individual financial statement of some of the subsidiaries. So you are going to be the component auditor, and you are going to be the auditor of the consolidated financial statement, along with the uh, you will also audit the individual financial statements of some of the subsidiaries, not all of the subsidiaries. The group audit committee has suggested that to keep the audit fee as low as possible, Welford and Company could audit the companies based in this country, but the foreign subsidiaries would be audited by local firms. These foreign subsidiaries contribute 60% of the group's total asset. So we need to consider the risk. The foreign subsidiaries, they make up the 60% of the total, and they won't be audited by you. They will be audited by local firms. You need to consider whether you will be able to collaborate with those local firms, whether those local firms will follow the acceptable accounting policies and principles, whether you could be able to rely on their work. And they want to keep the audit fee as low as possible. This could have implications for the intimidation threat, and this could have implications for the integrity of the client. If the audit committee wants to keep the audit fee as low as possible, this could create intimidation threat, and because of this intimidation threat, we might cut the corners, we might compromise on the quality, leading to audit risk. The group has recently involved with a business in Farland, a remote country which produces tropical fruit. The business is not incorporated as a company, and local regulations in Farland only require financial statements to be prepared or an audit to be performed for companies. So the company has been involved with business in Farland, a remote country which produces tropical fruit. The business is not incorporated as a company. Okay, that's strange. From an internet search regarding the group, you have also obtained the following information. So what information do you have from the internet? Local protesters. One subsidiary, Palm Company, has been accused of environmental damage due to operations impacting on the rainforest and causing harm to wildlife. There have been some protests by concerned citizens in the country where Palm Company is located. Digital recordings of these protests have spread worldwide on social media. So there is doubt over the integrity of the company. There is reputational issue. Their reputation does not seem to be great. So I need to consider whether I need to accept this client or not. So there are protests going on, their reputation is at stake, they have been accused of certain things. Last paragraph. The group has recently expanded its operation in certain country by acquiring a large area of land on which to grow wheat. To receive government approval of the acquisition, a significant incentive payment was made to a government minister. This sounds very familiar to me. This has been reported widely in the media. So in order to get certain things done, the your potential client has bribed to the government ministers. So that creates doubt over the integrity of the client. Okay. Yes, this seems to be the bribe. Okay. Now, what about the answer? The answer will start with a typical sentence which you should learn. And that is, in deciding whether to accept the company, whatever the name of the company is, you have to mention it, the Broadway Group, as a client, the audit firm, which is called Welford and Company, should consider several matters in accordance with ISQC1. ISQC1 is applicable on an audit firm. ISA 220 is applicable on a particular audit, during a particular audit. Both standards are relevant to quality. So this is about the audit firm, ISQC1, including their competence to perform the audit. So the focus has to be on what? Competence, ethical matters, and the client integrity. And the client integrity. Is this clear? The three factors? Okay, let's continue. Let's start with the first factor, competence, capabilities, and resources. So the audit firm should only accept the group as the client if the firm is competent to perform the engagement. Now, there are two things which we need to consider. What's the first issue? First, the group is large, having multinational organization with listed status. So majority of the subsidiaries are overseas they've got a huge size. So we need to consider whether we will be able to handle that, whether we have got the, whether the audit firm should only accept appointment if it has what? Enough suitably experienced staff available. Otherwise, they should not accept this client. Moreover, the audit committee wants the audit fee to be as low as possible. If that is the case, we need to consider, because this seems to be an intimidation threat, and we need to consider whether we can accept this client or not. Second, the group activities are very specialized. So they are into the agriculture. We need to consider whether we have got the resources to handle this particular client or not. So the audit firm, in order to handle this client, the audit firm would need to bring an expert, and that would increase the cost. And the financial reporting standards applied by the foreign subsidiaries would be different from the group. So we need to consider whether we'll be able to rely on the expertise of those local audit firms. Otherwise, if those audit firms are not having experience, or if we are not able to rely on the work, this lack of competence could be a significant barrier, and we might not be able to accept the client. So let's explore the marking scheme in order to come up with easy points. So the first mark you could get is that the client is a large multinational group, and we need to consider whether we'll be able to handle this large group, considering there are 14 subsidiaries. This client operates in a very specialized sector, agriculture industry. We need to consider whether we have got the resources to handle this job. Many subsidiaries will be using local financial reporting framework. We need to consider whether we will be able to amalgamate those local financial statements, whether we have got the competence to do the job. Then what? Then client integrity. Client integrity. ISQC1 requires consideration of client integrity when assessing whether to take on a new client. Yes, we have to consider the client integrity. The environmental damage allegedly caused palm company huge damage, and their integrity seems to be compromised. So we need to consider whether we want to be associated with a client where their integrity is not intact, or whether their reputation is so bad. So the audit firm may not wish to be associated with a client with a poor reputation. So this will give you another 1 mark. The incentive payment, this also creates doubt over the integrity of the client. This should be considered, or this would be considered as a bribe. And again, in this situation, considering the news is all over the place in the media, we would like to ensure that we are not associated with such client, and our ethical principles would suggest that we should refrain from this client. So if we go to the marking scheme, we'll get marks for that as well. See, poor reputation due to the alleged environmental damage, that will give you 1 mark. Possible illegal payment, and again this bribe, will give you 1 mark. So 1 mark for integrity, another 1 mark for integrity. The only ethical issue apparent which may impact on whether the firm can comply with the ethical requirement relates to the request from group audit committee to keep the audit fee as low as possible. This would be considered, this is the issue from the question, this would be considered as an intimidation threat. The code defines intimidation threat as where the auditor is deterred from acting objectively. Once the audit fee, or once the audit committee is putting pressure on you to keep the audit fee as low as possible. What does that mean? It means you should not apply most experienced auditors. You should apply less procedures. As a result, what happens? The quality of the audit becomes at stake. So this is an ethical issue. If the audit committee is not willing to you know realize that the audit fee would be according to the workload, you should not accept this particular audit client. Last but not the least, I would like to discuss few logistical issues as well. You could score 2 marks out of here. What are the logistical issues? The global positioning of the client makes it difficult. It is very difficult to visit different subsidiaries which are foreign subsidiaries. So this would be very difficult. There would be travel implications which would also lead to extra cost. and there could be language barriers as well. So before accepting the client, we need to consider whether we will be able to handle the logistical barriers, whether we'll be able to handle the extraordinary cost in traveling, and whether we'll be able to handle the language barriers. So you could get another 2 marks out of it. Let's explore it from the solution. Logistical issues, staff, whether the staff will be willing to travel, language barriers, cost implications. So you could get up to 2 marks from those logistical issues. Okay, I'm skipping a bit because I'm almost done with 10 marks. And I would like to go to a new question. And that new question is called, you have to attempt this question called Macau on yourself. This is available in your Kaplan exam kit. Comment on the quality of the audit performed, discussing quality control and ethical and other professional issues. Same, more or less same requirement. Then there is another question from your Kaplan exam kit called Retriever. Let's see what the part A is. In relation to the audit of Retriever group, evaluate the quality control, ethical and other professional matters arising in respect of the planning and performance of the group audit. More or less same requirement. So let's start this question called Retriever. But before we move on to the Retriever, if there is any question, please raise your question. Well, for the first question is from Akhil. Do we need to define the threat once identified? It's not mandatory, but if you could briefly explain what the threat is, it's good, but it's not mandatory. What are some matters to be considered when considering the work of a component auditor? We need to consider their competence, their independence, their reputation. Yes, Mothers Siddiqui, you are absolutely right. Expertise in the specialized industry is required, and this is going to be an ethical issue. Are we competent enough to do the job? Yes, Manoj, that was considered as bribe. You are absolutely right. Yes, Sidra, you are right. If they could bribe, the chances are on the higher side that the financial statements as a whole could be materially misstated, because once I've got doubts over the integrity of the client, obviously I'm going to doubt that I won't be able to perform the audit with greater authority, and the audit risk would be higher. So any other question? Okay. Okay. Another question. What is the idea behind saying lack of integrity of the client? Well, if there are doubts over the integrity of the client, as an audit firm, I do not wish to be associated with a client where there are doubts over their integrity. If their integrity is compromised, the financial statements are likely to be compromised as well. That creates the audit risk so high that I want to avoid that client. Is this clear? Please realize, Akhil, that this whole business, the audit firm business, is a reputational business. The reputation is what matters. All of you would love to work in the big four, right? I really hope so. All of you will. Why are you so much interested in big four? Why? Assuming you don't know anything about big four, you haven't been there, why you are so interested in big four? Because big four has got a reputation. They've got all the big fish, they've got all the clients, they have the connections with all the big corporate giants. So that's why. So this audit business, this consultancy business, this whole chartered accountancy business is all reputational business. So if the client's management is not having their integrity intact, I don't want to be associated with them. Okay, it was mentioned that the company was not registered as a company. Reason for this point? Yes, this could be discussed. This could be discussed. There is a discussion on that. one specific reason attaches to new business in far land which seems very unusual, that it is not incorporated as a company and is not required to prepare accounts or have local audit. This means that the group audit team would have to audit this business, creating logistical issues due to the remote location and having cost implication. So if one of the company is not incorporated and they are not required to have their audit, as a auditor of the parent company, you need to audit them, right? Because you need to perform the audit of the consolidated financial statement. This creates extra burden for you. You need to visit them, the remote place. This will have extra cost. You need to consider the logistical issues. You need to consider whether you have the competence and the resources to visit that remote place. So that could be utilized to explore 1 mark. Is this clear? Is this clear to? Okay, Akhil, well done. Okay, Fazila has raised a question. Sir, this question is a full 25-mark question. One question from the exam can come fully on this topic. Why not? Fazila, ethical and professional issues, quality issues could be tested in question number 1. They could be tested in question 3, most likely question 3, because question number 2 is usually on completion, review and reporting. One of the question in the section B is on completion, review and reporting, mostly question 2. There is a huge possibility for 15 mark the examiner would say ethical, professional and quality control issues, and for the 10 mark the examiner would say audit related assignment, a non-audit assignment. That is how we can come up with question 3. Is this clear, Fazila? Okay, the last question of the day, let's quickly go on to that. It will help you in preparing yourself for this topic called quality control, ethical and other professional issues. So this question is for your practice. You are going to type it, you are going to learn it, you are going to be well prepared when you will come tomorrow in the class. A good student is the one who came when he joined today's class. He was absolutely well prepared for the question called Redback Sports Company. When I say prepared, I literally mean prepared. The technique which I is there anyone who is absolutely well prepared for Redback Sports Company, which we did yesterday? For that to happen, you would have invested 4-5 hours on one question called Redback Sports Company in between the yesterday's class and the today's class. Did you do that? So there's one confirmation from Mohammad Ayaz. Is there anyone who invested quality time on Redback Sports Company, or you just attended the yesterday's webinar and now you are attending today's webinar? That's it, life is good. No, that's not the way. So there are confirmations from Zishan and Mohammad Ayaz. That's it. Very sorry to see that. Okay, Daniel, that's great. Manoj, that's great. Umair, that's great. Any girl? Okay, Kutsia, you did that as well. So as Fazila, I did most of it. Okay, great. So my dear student, how are you going to invest these 4 days? So you attended the day 1 webinar. Now you should prepare that question. And when I say prepare, I mean you need to invest 3-4 hours. You need to read the question again. You need to read the solution again. You need to drive an attainable answer out of it. You need to type it. You need to learn it. You need to read the examiner report. So that's what I mean by when I say prepare. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. If you did not attend yesterday, start it from tonight. Now, once you are done with today's webinar, you should prepare 3 questions before tomorrow's webinar. Number 1, reverse company, which we did, full 25 marks. Number 2, retriever, which we are about to do. Number 3, Macau. Okay. You can skip the last part of the retriever because it has got to do with forensic audit. So at least full question river, part A of the retriever. Okay, fine. You can skip the part B of the retriever because it has got to do with forensic audit, and I will teach you forensic audit on the 4th day. So let's ignore part B. What about Macau? What about Macau? The part A of the Macau is about quality and ethical issues. So you need to prepare part A of the Macau as well. What about the part B of the Macau? comment on the matters or matters to be considered and recommend actions to be taken, explain the audit evidence you would expect to find. No, you are not ready for the part B. So it's the full question river. It's the part A of the Macau and the part A of the retriever. So that means 25 marks, 13 marks, and then another 13 marks. So 13 plus 13, 26, and 26 plus 25. So you have to prepare 51 mark paper before attending tomorrow's webinar. Are you going to do that? Can I have confirmation? Promise yourself. It's up to you. If you are going to do that, almost 20 to 25 marks are in your pocket. Mark my words. Majameen Macau is available in your exam kit. If you are so much interested which year is that, I will refer along with the years in the WhatsApp group. Don't worry. Otherwise, it's available in your Kaplan exam kit. Macau is available in your exam kit. Retriever is available in your exam kit. River is not available in your exam kit. It's from December 2020. Okay, Athena has asked a question. So for someone who is working and he or she is not able to, solve all 351 mark questions, okay, fine, solve, type, and prepare one rivers, which we did today. Okay, if you are working, one that could be Fazila. Macau does not have audit reporting. Okay, let's continue. Let's finish the last question. We are running out of time. Okay, let's start the question. Kennel and Company, a firm of chartered certified accountant, is the external audit provider for the Retriever Group, a manufacturer of mobile phones and laptops. In the last question, you were having a discussion on a company which were involved in agriculture. Now this is they are involved in mobile phones and laptops. The group obtained a stock exchange listing. So this is a listed company. This is a listed company and they got listing in July 20x2, whereas the year end is 28 February 20x3. You are a manager in the audit department of Kennel and Company, responsible for conducting engagement quality control reviews on listed audit clients. So you are performing review. You have discussed the group audit with some of the junior members of the audit team, one of whom made the following comments about how it was planned and carried out. So up till now, there is no ethical issue, there is no professional issue, there is no quality control issue. Only one thing is important up till now, that this client is a listed company. So we are done with first two paragraphs, nothing so far, and we are left with just 2-3 paragraphs. So concentrate. The audit has been time pressured. The audit managers told the juniors, okay, is there any ethical or quality based issue as of now? The audit has been quite time pressured. Yes, time pressured. Now I'm not going into the details of it. As a result, we'll compromise the quality, we'll cut the corner. This could lead to incorrect audit opinion, all that. Well, that does not relate to threat to objectivity. You'll don't discuss threat to objectivity here. Okay, let's continue. The audit manager told the juniors not to perform some of the planned audit procedures. So they are deviating from the plan on items such as directors, emoluments, and share capital, as they are recognized to be low risk. The things relevant to directors are always considered as material by nature, and they are deviating from the audit plan without any justifiable reason. So this is again a breach of audit quality. They are not following the principles. They are deviating from the plan. In the beginning of the today's webinar, I told you, look for something such as time pressure. Look for something, there is a deviation from the audit plan. Okay, now we have identified two issues, 2 marks. He has also instructed us not to use the firm's statistical sampling methods in selecting trade receivable balances for testing, as it would be a quicker to pick the sample based on our own judgment. We are not following ISA 530 audit sampling. We are not following the statistical sampling method as mentioned in the audit plan. Rather, we are, again, cherry picking things so that we could, finish off the job early. this would lead to compromises. We might not be able to detect the material misstatements in the financial statement. So that's the third issue. Let's continue. Two of the juniors were given the task of auditing trade payables and going concern. My dear students, you have to tell me what's the problem here. There is an element of repetition. There is an element of repetition. From the reverse question, we discussed audit of going concern. Yes, Aluko, you are absolutely right. Juniors are auditing going concern. Very well done, everyone. Umar, Athena, Umair, Manoj, Mohammad Ayaz, very well done. So if a student is absolutely well prepared, Fazila, with respect to that question called reverse, that student will be able to get full marks with respect to this going concern issue. The audit manager, the 4 marks. The audit manager asked us to review each other's work as it would be a good training for us as he did not have time to review everything. The juniors are at an equal level. They might not be able to detect the mistakes. So the review work is compromised. And the audit manager does not seem to have good enough time. So he's not allocating time. He should take on the overall responsibility along with the partner. Another mistakes. Again, if you have attempted and prepared the previous question, this is some repetition. I was discussing group's tax position with the financial controller when she said she was struggling to calculate the deferred tax asset that should be recognized. So if the financial controller is struggling to calculate the deferred tax asset, there is a huge possibility that they are not competent enough to do the job, and there could be material misstatements in the financial statement. So you need to consider whether you would like to you need to consider that there will be other material misstatements in the financial statement as well. The deferred asset tax has a reason because several of the group subsidiaries have been loss making this year, creating unutilized tax losses. As I had just studied deferred tax at college, I did the calculation of the group's deferred tax position for her. This would create self-review threat. This could also lead to advocacy threat. The audit manager said that this saved us time as we now would have to audit the deferred tax figure. Yes, this would lead to self-review threat. The financial controller also asked for my advice as to how the tax losses could be utilized by the group in the future. So they are asking for your advice. This could lead to advocacy threat. I provided her with some tax planning recommendations for which she was very grateful. Tax computation, tax return does not create any ethical threat. But when you perform tax planning, this leads to self-review threat. So are you able to identify there are many ethical and quality control issues? Yes, very well done. That this could also lead to management threat when you are performing the deferred tax calculations and for them. Yes, the junior seems to be not aware of the ethical issues. Well done, well done. Yes, Daniel, self-review threat. Yes, Umair, there is self-review threat. Well done, very well done. What are professional issues? Professional issues are money laundering, so there is no suspicion of any illegal or criminal activity. So more professional issues, auditor liability. Well, auditors could be held liable if they knew that the client was not competent enough to prepare the financial statement. The preconditions were not there, but they still, executed the audit. Otherwise, there are no professional issues as here. Okay. So now it's time to explore the solution of this question before I take on your questions. Okay, you will be preparing this question, Macau, on your own at home. Part A requires the evaluation of quality control, ethical and other professional matters arising. This is a regularly examined topic. Typical issues to look out for in such a question are whether the work has been assigned to the appropriate level of staff. Not really. Sometimes the juniors are auditing the going concern. Whether sufficient time has been allocated for the audit. No, the junior just made the comment in the question called retriever that the audit was time pressured. Whether sufficient appropriate audit evidence has been obtained. Not really, because they are deviating from the statistical sampling technique. Whether Any ethical threats have been addressed? Yes, there are ethical threats, because if I'm going to prepare the financial statement such as deferred tax, that would lead to self-review threat. That could, if I'm going to come up with tax planning, that would create uh, self-review threat. And whether adequate quality control procedures have been performed in respect of engagement, such as adequate level of supervision and review. No, not really, because the audit manager seems to be very busy and the junior seems to be, reviewing each other's work. So please realize, these are the top tutor tips from the question called Macau, but they are equally applicable to a question called Retriever. So that's the importance of reading such things. Here is the Retriever. Part A requires the evaluation of quality control, ethical and other professional matters arising. Typical issues, same old issues. Is this clear? Appropriate level of staff, sufficient time, sufficient appropriate evidence has been obtained. Ethical threats such as massive management threat, advocacy threat, self-interest, self-review, all that. So the junior's first comment is that audit was time pressured. This is how you need to answer. Split them up. All audits should be planned to ensure that adequate time can be spent to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to support the audit opinion. It seems that audit is being rushed and the juniors instructed not to perform work properly, and that review procedures are not being conducted appropriately. All of this increases the detection risk. As an auditor, we won't be able to detect the material misstatements in the financial statements. The juniors were told to carry out do not carry out the procedures according to the plan. This is not in line. This increases the risk of audit risk. It is not acceptable to cut the corners. Even if the balances are considered low risk, they could still contain misstatements. Directors' emoluments are related party transactions and they are material by nature. They should have been audited. And if they have to skip it, senior members of the audit team should only skip something only if there is a genuine reason. They are not following the audit sampling techniques. So again, this creates threats. Audit of going concern. Going concern can be a difficult area to audit, and they have allocated this task to juniors, which might and those juniors might not be competent enough. They might not have the sufficient professional skepticism, and as a result, they might not be able to form an overall opinion on the viability of the business. What should be the recommendation? The going concern program should be performed by more senior members with relevant experience. The juniors have been asked to perform each other's work. This is not appropriate. If we two are at a same level, I might not be able to identify mistakes in your work. So the audit juniors reviewing each other's work are unlikely to spot mistakes. Deferred tax will definitely lead to self-review threat. Tax planning would lead to what? This is a non-audit service you are performing, and this would lead to self-review and also could lead to advocacy threat. The juniors' work on tax indicates that they are not properly supervised, they lack training, they need to come up. The audit firm should arrange an ethical training session for them. Is this clear? Let's explore the marking scheme. You should not attempt the part B because part B is relevant to forensic audit, which we have not studied as of now. So the audit was time pressured, planned procedures were ignored, sampling method was not followed, review was performed by juniors, going concern was delegated to juniors, deferred tax management is not competent enough, deferred tax will lead to self-review threat, tax planning means self-advocacy threat, juniors they are not aware of the ethical issues, they need proper training. Is this clear? Can you complete this answer? Audit was time pressured. The audit was time pressured, and as a result of that, there is a possibility that the audit firm would have made compromises on certain areas of the audit. And as a result of those compromises, there is a possibility that the sufficient appropriate audit evidence has not been obtained. So this is how I could explain my point. Is this clear, Akhil? Almas has asked, can you please share this retriever question and the standard solution in the group? It's not included in the kit. Almas, if you are part of the WhatsApp group, check the description of the WhatsApp group. You will get everything out of that WhatsApp, out of the description. Is this clear, Almas? According to the code, you can perform tax computations because tax return does not create any thread, Manoj, but tax planning creates self-review and advocacy threat. Shehzad is asking how to join the WhatsApp group. Well, if you want to join the WhatsApp group, let me help you. If you want to join the WhatsApp group, this is my personal number. You can contact me and I will share the invite with you. Okay, now it's time to have the Q&A session. If you have got any concerns or questions. Yes, Umair, you are absolutely right. When there is a time pressure, there is a huge possibility that certain procedures, whether these are test of controls or the substantive procedures, they could be, compromised. Okay. Well, you have got the WhatsApp group invite in your answer section. Thank you very much, sir. Any other questions? Almas is saying, sorry, Ibrahim is saying, doing tax for client is bookkeeping service not allowed. For the listed companies, you cannot perform the internal audit. For the listed audit clients, you cannot perform the internal audit. For the listed audit clients, you cannot perform their bookkeeping services. For the listed audit clients, you cannot perform their, tax planning services. What are the procedures to be done by the firm if we are evaluating work done by an external payroll service provider for the client? So if there is an external third party involvement, as an audit firm, I need to consider the competence and the, uh, reputation of that third party. I need to evaluate whether I will be able to, rely on the work of the third party. I need to collaborate with them, whether their work is well planned, well documented, whether I'll be able to get sufficient appropriate audit evidence from that. Mohammad Ayaz, thank you very much for your kind words. Okay, a tricky question from Manoj. What is type 1 and type 2 report? Fazila, data analytics, I don't think so it is going to be tested in this attempt because it used to be a current issue 2-3 years ago. It was tested 1.5 years ago. So I don't think so. Okay, a tricky question before I miss out from Manoj. Type 1 and type 2 report. So type 1 report means you are going to ask the auditor, what controls do you have in place? So let's say I am the auditor of company X and company Y is the subsidiary of the company X. I'm not auditing company Y. I might ask, what controls do you have in place? So that list is called that report is called type 1 report. And if I'm going to ask whether those controls are operating effectively or not, that is called type 2 report. Mohammed Anseman has asked, are there any new technical articles published? Not as of now. Unar Nawaz is asking, do you have a document listing the accounting standards in a few lines which we can use for the AAA exam? Well, I would say that you have to prepare 8 past papers questions, right? Extract the sentences relevant to accounting standard from it and make your own notes. Otherwise, at the end of the AAA study text, there are brief summary of the relevant accounting standards, Umar Nawaz. Is this clear, Umar? If they are too long, you can squeeze them. But you know what? I qualified my AAA exam in December 2012 attempt. I'm not lying and I'm not exaggerating. Trust me, my SBR was not that strong. My TP2 was not that strong. How did I prepare my accounting standard? From the exam kit of the P7, that is AAA, I extracted every sentence relevant to the accounting standard. And I made a new booklet. Those were 5-7 pages, not that long story. So if there is anything about if there is anything about IFRS 15, extract it. If there is anything about revenue recognition, IFRS 15, extract it. If there is anything about impairment, IFRS 36, extract it. So out of all those papers, you have to extract things for yourself, and this is how your accounting standards will be strong. And that will help you in attempting the AAA exam, because those sentences will be relevant to AAA rather than relevant to FR or rather than relevant to SBR. So this is a very important technique, I'm telling you. Out of the past papers, extract those sentences which are relevant to the financial accounting, relevant to the accounting standards. Extract those sentences, learn them, and you will rock, you will shine, mark my words. Mr. Toheed has asked, can you tell which 8 exam papers are you relating to? Why not? Why not? So what is the agenda for the tomorrow? Out of 100 marks, 25 marks are always and always and always available on completion, review and reporting. Actually, one of the question from section B will be on completion, review and reporting only. So the tomorrow's agenda is 25 marks, completion, review and reporting. So don't miss out tomorrow's lecture. And if you are going to attempt the homework after the tomorrow's lecture, will ensure 25 marks. Okay, those who are wondering which 8 papers I'm referring to, you need to prepare these 8 most recent past papers. They all are available on acccaglobal.com from September 2018 to December 2021. Is this clear to everyone? And you got to prepare. And when I say prepare, I don't mean you have to read. I don't mean you have to type. I mean you have to attempt. You have to evaluate the answer. You have to write your own answer with the help of self-solution. You got to write those answers on ACCA practice platform. Last but not the least, you got to learn them. That's what I mean when I say prepare. Okay, Toheed is saying, sir, is the day 1 recording available? I missed it due to job. Let me check it out. Let me check it out. I will share the link of the day 1 recording in the WhatsApp group. Don't worry. Umair is saying, are these 8 recent papers enough, or one should attempt all the questions in the exam kit? Well, Umair, I would say type and learn all the questions relevant to the webinars. Once you are done, you need to type and learn these 8 past papers. You need to prepare these 8 past papers, and then you need to attempt the mock exam. If you want extra effort, you need to come up extra effort on audit related services. Otherwise, you are done. You are ready. Umair, you are ready. Sir, is the day 1 recording? Let's assume work has not been sufficiently reviewed by the engagement partner. What are the quality control issues there, and what action should? If the work has not been reviewed appropriately by the engagement partner, it means there could be certain mistakes which may go undetected. This is a serious compromise on quality. The audit engagement partner should take the overall responsibility, and he should make sure that he reviews things. And what action should be taken pre and post issuance? Post issuance, you can come up with more, you need to come up with more training. You need to make them disciplined. You need to provide them training. Pre issuance, yes, you can perform the quality control issue now. You can perform the review now just to avoid any mistake. Umar Nawaz, why is there 2 months in your 8 list? Because ACCA does not publish for September. They does not publish for December. They amalgamate and they publish September, December. They do not publish for March. They do not publish alone for June. They amalgamate and they publish for March and June. So that's why. No, Umar, they are not 16 papers. They are not 16 papers. They are actually 8 papers. September 2018 complete paper, December 2018 complete paper, then March, June 2019 is one paper. September to December 2019 is one paper. March 2020 is a complete one paper. Again, June attempt was not published because of COVID. September, December 2020 is amalgamated into one. These are 8 past papers. Is this clear? So before I finish off, yes, Daniel, I'm almost done for the day. Just give me 2 more minutes. My dear students, it's my humble request to you, please, 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 before joining tomorrow's class, type and learn and prepare 3 questions. Full question river for 25 marks, which should be your number 1 priority. You got to type and learn on ACCA practice platform. Homework number 2, you got to type and learn retriever part A only. You got to type and learn Macau part A only. This is 51 mark. I'm giving you a homework for 50 marks. And tomorrow's day is going to be the most important and a most material one, because we'll be covering both the completion review and the audit report. So full 25 marks will be covered tomorrow. So thank you very much. River is also available in Kaplan by the name Welford. Okay, great, Daniel. Oh, sorry, Umer. Well done. So all these 3 questions are available in your exam kit. If not, you can check the description of the WhatsApp group. Otherwise, you can check the past papers. Yes, yes, Kurat, I will mention the homework in the group. I love it. I love posting the homeworks in the WhatsApp group. I will do it definitely. Even if you do not remind me, I will do it. Okay, Majbeen has asked a very important question. How many questions we are going to do tomorrow? Majbeen, I'll be teaching you completion. I'll be teaching you audit report tomorrow. Then I'll be teaching you what kind of questions examiner would ask you from the audit report, especially the criticism on the audit report, which is something new in AAA, not in AA. And then my target is to complete 225 mark questions tomorrow. 225 marks questions. Both questions will be recent past paper questions, again from that list of 8 past papers. Is this clear, Majbeen? Yes, I will explore the marking scheme of the analytical procedure as well tomorrow. Okay, guys, thank you very much. And as far as the recording of the day 1 is concerned, I'll share it in the WhatsApp group within no time. Thank you very much. And if anyone has got any concerns or question, you can always reach me. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow with completion, review and reporting, 25 marks. But please do not attend tomorrow's lecture without completing and without preparing your homework. I'm requesting you to prepare your homework. Let's make these days constructive. So over to you. The ball is in your court. I hope you come up with homework. Thank you. Bye bye. See you soon. Best of luck. Okay, Mr. Akil has asked a question. Can you explain what happens in the subsequent event review? Why do we perform subsequent event review? We perform subsequent event review just to make sure that the client has followed the International Accounting Standard 10. So we just want to figure out whether there is any event which require adjustment or disclosure. Or maybe the client has not adjusted for it. Maybe the client has not disclosed it. So that's why we perform the subsequent event review. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. I'll see you tomorrow. Please complete the homework.